I was 17 when I learned that love in my family came with a price tag. Not loyalty, not care, just the cost of what I could do for them. It was a humid August morning when my mother barged into my room, waving a lease agreement in one hand and a calculator in the other. "Your sister found her dream apartment," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "She just needs a cosigner. That'll be you." I blinked. "I'm 17. My dad chuckled from the hallway. "Exactly. You have no debt, clean credit. That's what banks love." They'd always talked over me like that, like I was a tool, not a daughter. I hesitated. What if she doesn't pay? Mom's smile snapped into a scowl. "Don't be dramatic, Alyssa. It's not about her paying. It's about family. She's your sister." "She also maxed out 3 credit cards in my name," I said, my voice shaky. That's when the mask slipped. My dad stomped in, veins bulging. "You ungrateful brat. We feed you, clothe you, and now you act like a victim. Who raised you?" "You did," I said quietly. "But that doesn't mean I'll ruin my life for her." That single sentence changed everything. I was gone by nightfall. No warning, no goodbye, just my suitcase on the porch and a voicemail. "If you're too good for us, don't come back." I slept in my friend Brianna's garage for 2 weeks. No heat, no bathroom, just a space heater and a cracked air mattress. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I worked nights at a diner and took community college classes during the day. I got scholarships by sheer will. I didn't sleep much, but I kept going. I refused to become the failure they predicted. Meanwhile, my sister posted filtered selfies from rooftop bars and rented hotel pools. Every time she smiled into the camera, I remembered the moment they threw me out to keep her comfortable. It wasn't until 4 years later that I saw my parents again. I had just earned a full-ride transfer to a top university. I was waiting tables on the weekend when they walked in. Mom wearing pearls like it was still Sunday Mass. Dad carrying himself like nothing had ever happened. "Alyssa," Mom said, her tone fake light. "We knew you'd end up somewhere like this." They didn't order food. They just handed me a letter. A request for $22,000 to help pay off a car they'd leased for my sister. A Mercedes. "You owe it to her," Mom hissed. "You walked away when she needed you." "I was homeless," I replied. Dad leaned closer. "Well, you look like you're doing okay now." That was the moment I made a vow. They would never benefit from a cent I earned. I put myself through school. I interned for free. I couch-hopped and skipped meals, and then I landed a job in aviation finance. Within 5 years, I built a consulting company. By year 6, I had my first small jet, paid in full, no loans, no handouts. And on the 11th anniversary of the day they kicked me out, I returned to the same town for the first time, in my own jet. They didn't recognize me at first, not until the pilot opened the door and I stepped out in heels they couldn't afford if they sold their house. Their jaws dropped. But I wasn't there to talk. I was there to collect something they forgot they owed me a long time ago. Respect. The town hadn't changed much. Same cracked sidewalks, same rusted signs, same whispers behind curtained windows. But I wasn't the same girl they threw out with a suitcase and a voicemail. I wasn't here for nostalgia. I was here for the fundraiser. It was ironic, really. The same people who said I'd never make it were now raising money to save the failing community center. My old high school gym had been transformed into an event hall. Gold balloons, folding chairs, plastic champagne flutes, and at the front of the room, my parents. They didn't know who sponsored the event. Not until my name was announced over the mic. This entire fundraiser was made possible by the generous support of our special guest, Ms. Alyssa Carrington. There was a pause, then a gasp. My mom stood frozen, eyes wide. Dad dropped his drink. I walked onto the stage in a sleek black jumpsuit, heels clicking, the spotlight trailing me like a long-lost apology. I didn't look at them, not yet. I looked at the kids sitting in the audience, kids who reminded me of myself at 17. Alone, afraid, told they weren't good enough. "I grew up in this town," I said calmly. I was told I was selfish for not giving everything to people who gave me nothing but conditions. I was told I'd fail if I didn't stay obedient. I'm here to say—" I turned, slowly locking eyes with my parents in the front row. "They were wrong." There was silence, then thunderous applause. The only two people not clapping were my mom and dad. Afterward, I stepped off the stage and made my way through the crowd. My parents cornered me before I could leave. "Alyssa," my mom started, her voice trembling, "that speech was dramatic." I smiled. "Thanks. It was honest." "You embarrassed us," my dad snapped, "in front of the whole town." "You kicked me out when I was a teenager for saying no," I said, "and then asked me to pay for a car I couldn't even sit in." Mom scoffed. "It was just a Mercedes. It wasn't even new." I blinked at her. "Do you hear yourself?" Then she dropped her real agenda. "Look," she said quickly, "we're behind on the house. Your father's pension didn't come through. We thought maybe, now that you're doing well?" My dad added, "You could float us a bit?" I laughed. Not cruelly, not loudly, just sadly. "You made your choice 11 years ago. You chose my sister's comfort over my safety. You laughed when I had nowhere to sleep. You haven't changed. You just ran out of money." "You're our daughter," my mom whispered. "No," I said. "I was your backup plan. And now I'm your last resort." I left them standing in that hallway, mouths open, hands empty. But it wasn't over yet. 3 days later, my lawyer served them a notice. The house they were begging to keep, they didn't own it anymore. Turns out, their mortgage had gone into default, and the property had been quietly bought by one of my investment arms 6 months ago. A shell company. They never saw it coming. I gave them 30 days to vacate. And as poetic as that sounds, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming the power they stole when I was 17. It was about making sure the girl they abandoned never again had to wonder if she was enough. And just as they once shut a door on me, I shut one behind them. Only this time it was marble and gold, not wood and chipped paint. They stood on the lawn that day, bags packed, staring at the house like it had betrayed them. But it hadn't. I had just taken back what was always mine. The day I landed in a private jet back in my hometown, it wasn't supposed to be dramatic. But life has a way of handing you full circle moments. Moments that echo with every "you'll never make it," every slammed door, every tear you swallowed in silence. The jet landed just outside the old regional airport. I stepped down the stairs wearing a crisp white suit, designer sunglasses, and heels that clicked like punctuation marks. Waiting near the gate were reporters, old classmates, and even the mayor. I had funded half the airport renovation under an alias. Today was the unveiling. But I knew they'd come. And they did. My mother and father stood just outside the terminal, dressed like they hadn't slept. Mom in a sagging cardigan, Dad with a borrowed cane and empty eyes. They hadn't taken eviction well. Apparently they'd tried staying with my aunt, but that lasted 3 days. Then came the calls, then the emails, then silence. Until now. I walked past the cameras, past the applause, and toward them. "Please," my mother whispered. "We're sorry." I raised an eyebrow. "For what? Kicking me out? Telling the family I was ungrateful? Calling me selfish when I refused to go into debt for my brother's wedding?" Dad coughed. "We thought you'd come around." "I did," I replied, "just not in the way you expected." Mom took a trembling step closer. "We're homeless." "You're still better off than I was at 17, I said quietly. "At least you have each other." Her face twisted. "You'd really leave your own parents on the street?" I reached into my handbag, pulled out a black envelope, and handed it to her. Inside was a card that read, "The Carrington Shelter for Abandoned Youth, opening soon, fully funded by Alyssa Carrington, in loving memory of second chances." She looked confused. "There's a room reserved for you," I said. "Not in the shelter, in the volunteer office. You want help? Start helping someone else." Dad's jaw clenched. "You want us to work at a homeless shelter?" "No," I said. I want you to feel what it's like to be overlooked, ignored, and judged, like you made me feel. Maybe then you'll understand." She crumpled the card. "You're still bitter." "No," I replied with a calm smile. "I'm healed." Bitter people want revenge. Healed people build empires and let karma do the rest. I turned and walked back to the car waiting for me. The driver opened the door, but before I got in, I looked back one last time. "You taught me how to survive," I said to them, by making me believe I couldn't. And then I left. The crowd cheered as the black car pulled away, but I didn't hear it. Because inside, I was thinking about that scared, crying girl who once sat alone at a gas station with no phone, no money, and no one who cared. That girl deserved justice. And she finally got it. Today, I wasn't just Alyssa Carrington. I was proof that being kicked out doesn't mean being kept down. And the jet I walked out of? It was just the beginning.